It is 6:15 in Douala. Thanks and welcome to the news. I'm Kejang Henry Atimbi. Now let's flag off with our top stories. Four suspects are under custody for alleged abduction of a student and an artist in Yaoundé. They were reported to book their victims for appointment before carrying them to unknown destination. And Cameroon is reported to have lost more than £1 billion CFA to corrupt practices in the custom administration. A damaging report has been presented by the Anti-Corruption Unit. And we shall move over to Akwaya, where it is a nightmare to secure an identity card, as the people have to travel long distances from Akwaya to Mamfi just to get one. Top stories. Check out on our platforms for consultation on Canal International. 4 persons are presently under custody, the Shindamari custody in Yaoundé. They are suspected of kidnapping a young girl and an artist. An artist. In fact, these suspects are known to book for appointments with their victims before carrying them to unknown destination. Let's have the details with our Yaoundé chief correspondent, Beatrice Ngabo.
The drama took place last January 6 when a student went out to answer a rendezvous as a young artist. Little did he know that they were kidnappers. They took him to an unknown destination very far from their home, and from there they started their famous business deal. There they started threatening him, asking for ransom from parents, friends in and out of the country. Once notified by the family, the National Gendarmerie mobilized all it takes to tactically reach the said hijackers to save the boy. After enduring days of ordeal at the hands of his abductors, the young man started walking his own way out. He needed to develop the fighting spirit to escape from the hands of his kidnappers. The mother is today very happy, thanking God Almighty for the release of her son.
Because he helped me to realize that I'm not alone. I'm so happy, and I give thanks to everybody who helped us.
Saluting the gendarmes for their swift interventions also.
Only to encourage them to improve in the work, because it's well done.
As has become their tradition, the National Gendarmerie passes on this message to parents with captivity situation.
Ne même pas donner 5 francs.
This because they do all to arrest them one after the other. These 4, most of whom are habitual criminals, were caught at the Nkwabanfu and Carrier neighborhoods in Yaoundé. They are to appear before the state attorney to answer for their crimes.
And we move over to Akwaya in the southwest region, where securing an identity card is a nightmare to the people. And so it's no secret that those wishing to acquire an identity card have to travel long distances from Akwaya to Mamfi. And of course, they need to spend at least 60,000 francs and spend days before they are issued a receipt. Details with our Southwest Chief Correspondent, Ines Undwabala.
Created some 62 years back, Akwaya subdivision in Manu division of the southwest region of Cameroon shares boundaries with Nigeria. With 99 villages, Akwaya is the largest subdivision in Manu. The challenge of having a national identity card bound, a problem acknowledged by the head of state.
Akwaya never had an identification center. So the big challenge is that we have a vast population that have turned the age of voting, but have not been able to have their names entered in the electoral register because of the lack of ID cards. We don't have a center. And Even for an acquired person to acquire an ID card, it becomes a project. Somebody has to trek to Manfe.
This is Acquire subdivision, no identification center. Having an ID card here is a nightmare. Because of the lack of ID cards, Cameroonian citizens of this area are often mistaken to be Nigerian, who has the majority of the population.
And unfortunately, when they get to Manfe, some of them are mistaken for Nigerians because of their tongue, because the way they speak the English. Most of these students go to school in Nigeria, and their way of speaking, the way they speak English is influenced and shaped by the Nigerian style.
The people of Acquire spend over 60,000 francs CFA to get to Manfe for the ID cards to be issued. Due to the lack of financial resources, some inhabitants go on foot, traveling for days to reach Manfe, where they can find an identification post.
So we are calling on government to see how to assist the Acquire people have that center, so that we can have our population of Acquire get into the electoral register, so that we can have our voting strength increased.
A clarion call of the population to the government to put in place an identification post in Acquire.
The Customs Administration is again on the spotlight as one of the most corrupt administrations in the country. It is reported by the Anti-Corruption Unit, CONAC, that Cameroon lost more than £1 billion to corruption in the Customs Department. And so a recent seminar was out to make sure they eradicate corruption in that sector. Details in the following report. According to the latest report by CONAC, Cameroon lost over 100 billion CFA francs in 2023 due to corruption in customs administration.
On the occasion 25, he is calling on all custom officers, all business people, the business community, clearing agents, that we should all join our hands in the fight against corruption. That is really a canker worm at various points of entry of goods and along the various corridors where goods are transported. And that it is important that people abandon corrupt practices.
Extortion, administrative delays, double taxation, and other challenges continue to cripple the efficiency of customs services. A concerted effort from all stakeholders involved in the customs clearance and goods transportation chain is necessary to eradicate these issues. The Cameroonian Customs Administration reaffirms its commitment to fighting corruption. To improve the behavior of customs personnel and their partners, an awareness seminar was held in Douala as part of the activities marking the 25th edition of International Customs Day. And almost about 70% of women in Cameroon are working independently, almost dominating the informal sector. And so a report by the National Institute of Statistics says that these women actually lacked training. That is why most of them are finding themselves in the informal sector. Ambo Gladys takes a look on that.
Cameroonian women are at the forefront of entrepreneurial activities in the informal sector, according to a recent report by the National Institute of Statistics. The study indicates that 68.3% of women work independently compared to 48.2% of men. Analysts attribute this remarkable disparity to various socioeconomic and cultural factors.
Population structure. Women outnumber men, and this increases their chances. Less access to education also pushes women into informal jobs, requiring no formal training. Thirdly, the effective use of local language aids trade. So we equally have cultural norms that limit them. And lastly, low entry barriers. They need minimal capital to start informal work.
Le capital technique sommaire.
A majority of employed women are concentrated in sectors requiring minimal qualifications, often because of a mismatch between their skills and job market demands.
Sous-traitance, and then we go for près. It's too long for men to support extra time.
feminine, biological, cultural and face skepticism when pursuing such jobs.
The study further reveals that only 21.6% of women in Cameroon have received formal professional training compared to 28.6% of men. This gap significantly limits their ability to transition into high-paying or specialized fields.
And what then is the situation in the formal sector where the men are equally dominating? It is known that the women are not very out. The National Institute of Statistics has published the report further highlights that only a small percentage of women occupy positions in the formal job sector. One of the critical challenges in the formal sector is the reluctance of some human resource officers and managers to recruit women, especially those of childbearing age. Their concern lies in the potential for maternity leave, which could create temporary work gaps. However, some HR experts argue that recruitment should be based on competencies rather than gender.
Having recruited stats was wonderful.
He emphasizes that men can also create workforce disruptions due to long-term illnesses, making this issue a shared concern. Beyond structural challenges, Mr. Bisagal notes that women often lack assertiveness in pursuing leadership and governance roles.
Sometimes it's the women themselves. They don't feel that, okay, they can do what, for instance, someone is promoted, and instead of saying, okay, I will overcome the challenge, she will be afraid of the challenge. Instead of being like, okay, excited to overcome the challenge. And the other thing is historical. 30 or 40 years ago, we were not finding women working on the formal sector. But today, we are finding them. That's why you can see, when you look at the statistics, men are more in the formal sector than women, but the statistics are evolving.
While this trend is gradually changing with increased access to education for women, societal barriers remain. He also stressed that women must support one another as intra-gender competition sometimes hinders progress. The women are at the forefront of the informal economy in the country, from street vendors to seamstresses. They represent 68% in this vital sector. Sherifa Saleh paints a picture of these women and their daily activities.
Marie begins a day long before dawn, waving through the central market of Douala. Elsewhere, this lady, once a teacher, the death of her husband forced her to reinvent herself in a street vendor to provide for her family. Her story is emblematic of a silent economic force, women dominating the informal sector.
Le salaire ne permet pas à nourrir ma famille. All those girls, they cannot remain in the house. They can come in market and do themselves some kind of money.
The informal economy in Cameroon is a cornerstone of national commerce. According to the country's National Institute of Statistics, women constitute more than 2/3 of this sector. They are seamstresses, street vendors, or food sellers.
I like the way I'm doing. It's my capital. I don't joke with it. I might do anything, but I don't joke with my capital.
Their contributions are as diverse as they are vital, ensuring that local markets thrive even in the face of broader economic challenges.
What I'm doing, I say it should be hard, but for me, I can't do that type of job. So I decided to base on my business.
However, life in this sector is not without its hurdles. The absence of social protection, coupled with financial instability, makes their resilience all the more remarkable.
Some of the customers, some male customers like fine women, or they will think that maybe you are here alone, they have the chance to work out with you.
Their efforts not only sustain families, but also underpin the broader economy.
Cutting for this edition of the 6:15 with me, Kejang Henry. I think we're thanking you for being there with us. Good day.